President Obama attacked success, and therefore under President Obama we have less success.
We don't need somebody who's a pioneer in offshore or outsourcing.
Americans don't need sound bites, they need jobs. But what if I told you neither President Obama nor Governor Romney can create a single extra job quickly? The economy is adding jobs, but not enough. Nearly 13 million Americans are still looking for work, and many frustrated Americans have simply given up, with those either employed or actively looking hitting a 30-year low. You are demanding answers, but your politicians are too busy yelling at each other to hear you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Romans. Politicians create sound bites. These people create jobs. Meet 4 people with the power to hire. They employ anywhere from 9 to 300 workers each. Barry Sloan is the chairman and CEO of Newtek, a small business service company. Rupila Sethi is the founder of Aerial Design and Build, a New York City contractor. Jeffrey Scheininger is president of Flexline, that's a manufacturer. And Don Peebles is chairman and CEO of Peebles Corporation, a real estate developer. Okay, raise your hand if you've created a job anytime, let's say in the last year. There you go. Okay, so people who are actually creating jobs. Why? Why did you have to create a job?
As we provide funds to small businesses, they create jobs. We've also increased our workforce by about 12% over the last year. 12%
over the last year. So
yes.
That would sort of defy what we're seeing more broadly in the economy, really. You've been hiring people, I know, because you're getting contracts. Yes. Your margins are tight, but you hire people, you say, before you actually get the business because you're anticipating the demand.
Absolutely. We've tripled our workforce over the last 1 year.
Tripled your workforce?
Tripled our workforce. This year we've hired 1 new person every 2 months, and I think we need to hire an ex-employee.
You are very careful to watch costs, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Customers are penny pinching.
Absolutely. You know, in the past we would see 2 contractors bidding on 1 project, but now you have sometimes 4 to 5 contractors bidding on 1 project, and they typically go for the lowest bidder.
And Jeff, you're already seeing, you're a manufacturer, you're already seeing Europe and China slowing on your business for sure. You can feel it.
Correct. It started about 6 to 8 weeks ago, and we can certainly sense that there's been a change in our economic underpinnings.
So what do you do differently? How do you watch the global economy and worry about your own business?
Well, you know, it's real easy to tell when your orders go down. As a manufacturer, we're primarily driven exclusively by demand. We do hiring based, you know, if it's manufacturing based, it's purely demand driven. If demand goes down, there is no hiring.
And I know that you, Don, real estate, a lot of people have been saying it's been bottoming, commercial real estate and the housing market in general. Do you see a bottom?
Yeah, I do. I think the housing market and throughout the country is pretty much bottomed out. I think, and we're seeing tremendous recovery, say, in New York City in all sectors, especially the super high end. You know, we have apartments now in New York City routinely now selling for over $10,000 a square foot, which is an absurd amount of money. Also, what we've seen in our businesses is hospitality is growing. We're seeing occupancy going up higher in our hotels, customers spending more money while they're there on food and beverage and other activities in the hotel. And we also are looking at much more deal flow in our major markets that we operate in, but also cities like Detroit. And so we're hiring people now to look at more of these deals because we now believe that these deals are going to lead to new development and new construction, which I think will help pull the economy up a bit more to have new construction activities start taking place. And we're seeing that in markets that we wouldn't have thought of before, again, such as Detroit, Washington, D.C., and now Miami. We're looking at new construction in Miami, which 3 years ago was just, you know, basically a cemetery.
All right. Do politicians create jobs, or, Jeff, do people who run businesses create jobs?
The difference between my hiring a welder based on my demand and the economic impact of my hiring a welder or a setup man versus the local town hiring a teacher is phenomenal, because of not just the multiplier effect, but the creation of wealth, the creation of additional revenue versus the consumption of it.
So you're saying the economic benefit of you hiring a welder is bigger than the economic benefit of a new teacher's job being created?
Correct.
I think that teachers would argue with you about that.
Teachers should argue with me about it. If you're unhappy and uncomfortable with teachers, then say bureaucrat. If you're unhappy with that, say, you know, you pick. But the bottom line is, how many people must support that one government hire, as opposed to growing the economic pie?
Well, I think what you're saying is that it's growing organically, that basically it's economic circumstances that dictate you creating a job, as opposed to there could be stagnant economic activity and the government can create a job. I don't think politicians create jobs at all. I'm a big believer that the government can create an environment for us to do business. And the best way they can create an environment is just give us some basic regulations, be consistent about the regulations, so what the rules of the game are, and get out of our way and let us do business.
Can someone here point to me, any of you, can you point to me a tax or a regulation that has prevented you from hiring a worker?
Yes. Actually, right now, we're looking at a deal right now, and the biggest stumbling block is that it's a major site to develop. The biggest stumbling block is they want us to close before the end of the year. We need to close the first of next year. If we buy this project, there will be a couple hundred new jobs created as a result of this project.
And the government wants you to close by the end of the year.
Well, however, no, not the government. It's the seller of the property.
Right.
And the reason the seller wants us to close is they are convinced capital gains are going to go up next year.
I see.
And so they feel that their taxes are going to go up 10 points. So instead of 15%, they see capital gains being 25%. Or worse. So that uncertainty has made it a deal breaker, and they've taken the position that they will keep the property themselves and develop it themselves as opposed to selling it to us. And they'll develop it into a use that will create very few jobs because it will be a residential rental building as opposed to a hotel.
So do you all agree that there are taxes and regulations that prevent people from hiring?
Every single day. I am informed of another one. Whether it's the local sewer authority promulgating regulations for wastewater that exceeds the local drinking water standard, or it's the uncertainty created around taxes. You can't invest in a project or in a piece of equipment that has a 3- and 5-year economic life if you don't know what the taxes are.
More with my panel of job creators coming up next. What's one thing Washington can do to improve conditions for your company? You say, do nothing.
Fix the tax code in terms of letting us know what it's supposed to be over the next few years, and then take a breath.
I'm back with 4 people who don't talk about creating jobs. They are people actually doing the hiring. Let's talk, since we're talking about regulation. Obamacare, as the Republicans call it. Even the White House sometimes calls it Obamacare, by the way, but is the Affordable Care Act. Is health care reform preventing anyone from hiring right now?
Yeah, there's no question. And there's nothing wrong with Obamacare, just like there's nothing wrong with the Bush tax cuts. It's the president's key, feature in his legislation. So with respect to the Patient Protection Affordable Health Care Act, it's really concerning to a lot of small businesses. There are businesses that are right at the break point of 50 employees. They don't want to go over it for fear that they're going to have additional compliance.
So they're holding back on growing because they don't want to trigger, after 50 employees, you have to provide health insurance.
That's correct.
But look, I think we're a great country, a nation of individuals, and also a nation that is innovative. And so we should spend a significant amount of resources on preserving human life and improving the quality of human life. And as a business person, from day one since I started my company, I provide health care to our employees because it's impossible for me to look any of my employees in the eye and if they have a sick child or a sick parent or a sick spouse and let them suffer. So either we're going to pay for it as a company or we're going to provide a system that allows them to have health care. So as businesses, our role here is not just to make money. Our role here is to build businesses and help build this nation and make it an even greater nation. And that means taking care of its citizens.
And we have 9 employees and we provide health care.
You
We don't have to, but we do. Because, it's the employees that help our business grow. They're out in the field.
Is it employee retention? I hear so much about the skills gap, people who are still looking for just the right level, the right worker for the right job. Does healthcare help you retain that worker?
I think so. I think they see they're getting benefits by working with us. So,
Jeff, I have a feeling that you are just not really a fan of this legislation.
Well, I am a fan of health insurance. I pay for my employees 100%. I pay for their families 100%. No contribution.
Really?
Correct.
Do you have any job openings at the moment?
I do.
Because I'm paying more this year than I paid last year.
Skills?
Well, I'm afraid I probably wouldn't be able to help you out much in the metal tube fabrication
But
business.
I do believe that, and I also believe that healthcare should be a right. That having been said, I can tell you that for the vast majority of very small businesses that don't provide health insurance, the mandates will be difficult for them. I can also assure you that the cost control mechanisms built into the Affordable Care Act are such that your employees will be spending a great deal more time getting health care related services. The way the bureaucracy will lower costs is by erecting arbitrary barriers to care. So your employees will be out of the office a lot longer, and that is going to be a huge productivity drain.
Solving a problem doesn't happen overnight. We obviously can all admit that health care is a problem in this country. It takes too much money, and too few people are covered. So we need to solve that problem. So somebody has to do something. So what I think the president did is a good start. Is it perfect? No. Does it need work? Yes. It's a work in progress. And what we should be doing, and our politicians should be doing, is saying, okay, this is a given. We're doing this, and we're doing this, so let's make it better. Let's make it work better. How do we reform it and refine it?
Can I ask you something? You've advised the White House before on financial matters. Have you talked to, has there been a lot of outreach to business, do you think, about how to make this work for business in America?
No, I think that there was one of the pitfalls or one of the shortcomings of this legislation. Is I think that they could have involved more businesses. But I understand the president's goal, which was to get something done and get it implemented. And if he had continued to have a broad dialogue with a lot of constituencies, it would never get done. And we'd still be talking about it as we have had since Hillary Clinton started working on it, a couple of decades ago. So I think that the White House did the right thing by getting something going, but I think it needs refinement, and I would like to see them more open and receptive to refinement.
I'm sorry, Bear. I'm afraid that the bill as it stands is a monster that will, in fact, consume enormous amounts of capital without delivering any health benefits. Do you know that the bill includes billions of dollars for the Health and Human Services Secretary to invest in emerging healthcare technologies? That can't end well.
There's a lot of things that are in this bill, but this bill is the law of the land. The question that I'm asking is, has anyone here not hired anyone because they're afraid of healthcare reform? And I don't think any of you have not hired someone because of this.
But we're an anomaly. And in my 100,000 business customer portfolio, we're going to lose a lot of businesses. There's restaurants, there's doctors that are leaving the profession because now the government is going to decide what care you get, what price it is, and what the rules are. And small businesses are not going to be able to afford it, so it's a choice. I choose to pay my employees health care because I want the best employees. But if there's a smaller employee and they can't afford it, that's their choice. It's a free market.
This is a very great conversation. I appreciate it from all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.